Hey guys, this is Matt with Peak 7 Adventures. First of all, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be able to watch this video and to learn a little bit more about kind of how I grew up, my background, and how I came to be in the great position that I am now. It all kind of dates back to when I was about 6 years old. My father passed away from lung and brain cancer, and I was pretty devastated from that. I didn't know him too well, but the memories I do have him are very fond of. I do remember that after he died, I would spend many hours, into the night crying myself to sleep for a while, and I would curse God. I would yell at him, why'd you take my father away from me? Why could you do this to somebody like me? What did I do to you, And it had a big effect on my family as well. My mom she got really depressed and kind of lost the will to work. She just got really lazy, so it played a big role in the way I grew up. We got really impoverished, and we didn't have a lot anymore. We would always wonder, how am I going to get by the next day? So as time went on, again, I was just angry at the Lord for taking my father away from me. Around middle school, 7th and 8th grade, I started to get into drugs. I was always picked on when I was younger, because I was a bigger kid. And the people that I hung out with when I was smoking pot and drinking alcohol and all this other stuff, they accepted me for me, They didn't care that I was a big kid, that I was goofy looking, They just kind of accepted me, and I liked that at the time, And even though it meant I had to smoke pot every day, just to make sure that they liked me still. So I started going to a youth group, just kind of with another group of friends, Life Center, and the people there were really accepting of me. And at that time, again, I was really vulnerable to that, and I loved that they were just so accepting, and they just, even though they didn't know that I smoked pot, they still were loving on me, and it was a great feeling. The summer between my 8th and 9th grade year, I went to a church camp, Camp Riverview, and it was a life-changing experience. I honestly felt the Lord's presence the strongest there that I've ever felt it, and I'll never forget that feeling. It was the best feeling of my life, just feeling that the Lord was there. And I ended up just breaking down, and I fell to my knees and I started to cry. And one of the leaders came over to me and prayed with me, and that's when I accepted Christ into my life. But for a while there, it wasn't a lifestyle for me. It was more or less kind of a stereotype that I was, You've got the people who play sports, they're the jocks. You have the people who are very well off, they're the preppies. You got the gothic kids and the Christian kids. I was stereotyping myself, putting myself, I'm just a Christian. I didn't know what it meant to live that lifestyle yet. I was still smoking pot, still doing drugs, still drinking, up until probably about my 10th grade year, sophomore year in high school. Two of my best friends took me to this place called Youth for Christ, and again, everybody was so accepting of me there, and it just changed me, Instantly I jumped into getting into student leadership, and one of the prerequisites for student leadership is you can't be doing drugs. So I decided I'd much rather have this than smoking pot or drinking alcohol or doing anything else. I wanted that relationship with God. So that really helped me out getting plugged into Youth for Christ. And so I went on. I was a volunteer as a student leader throughout my high school career. My senior year came around, and I got really discouraged because I wasn't going to graduate on time. My freshman and sophomore year, I messed up really bad, just because I was into the drugs and all that. And it put me back 2 years because I didn't really do any of my schoolwork or anything. And I decided to drop out, I didn't have a good reason for dropping out. I was just lazy, and I wanted to find the easy way out. So I dropped out when I turned 18, November 6th of last year. And, for a while, I still stayed with YFC. I couldn't be a student leader anymore because I wasn't a student, but I signed a volunteer application, and I started helping out. But I needed to do something more than just go to Youth for Christ once a week. So for a while there, all I did was sit in my butt and play video games. You know, I had a really bad work ethic. I didn't have a father growing up to teach me, you know, how to get stuff done, you know, how to persevere in this and that, and just how to buckle down and get my act together. It was around March. I went to a Youth for Christ banquet, and I ran into Ryan Kerrigan. I knew Ryan because I'd been on Peak 7 trips before in the past. I went on the very first Olympic National Park trip, and I also went on an ascent trip that next year. So I've been on a couple of rafting trips too. So I saw Ryan there, and you know, not to my knowledge, but Ryan had taken a real interest in me. Just, he knew the background that I came from. He saw potential in me that I couldn't see in myself. He saw great leadership potential. And he asked me at that banquet, "What are you doing?" And I kind of explained to him that I dropped out. And he's like, "Well, come on a rafting trip, just to have fun." So the next day I went on a rafting trip, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. You know, I kind of helped out a little bit, set up some stuff, you know, but just had a good time. He asked me to come by again the next day, so I did. I helped out a little bit more, you know, tried to step up a little bit. I did that for one more day, and then after that he came up to me, him and Trey came up to me, and were like, "Matt, we want you to come on the leadership training program." I looked at that, and I just praised God for it. He gave me an opportunity. You know, I didn't really have anything else to go for. Just all I had was my GED. And God blessed me with the opportunity to be able to come on with Peak 7. And so I thought about it for about a week or so to see, you know, talk to a couple people, you know, do you think I should do this? And I ended up doing it. And it was a life-changing experience, you know. Ryan Kerrigan invested a lot of time in me, you know, really, you know, laying down the law to get me to learn some work ethic and to really be able to just apply that. And he wanted to help me. And, you know, I didn't have a lot of people in my life who were that dedicated to me because, you know, I never had a father to do that for me. And so the rafting season went by, and I learned a lot about rafting. I loved rafting. And, you know, I just helped out as much as I could. Then backpacking season came along, and I went on just about every trip, and it was amazing. It was an awesome time for me to grow spiritually, to grow maturity-wise, to grow mentally, and I came out of the backpacking season, I think, a new man. But when backpacking season ended, I found myself back at my house, back in a really destructive environment. At the time, I had sisters, a 17-year-old sister doing drugs, an 11-year-old sister doing drugs. My mom was also doing drugs. She was stealing pot out of our house. And it was just a really destructive environment. You know, even though I stayed away from those things, I found myself back in a position of it's really easy to just sit here and not do anything. So for the next about 2 weeks, I just kind of sat around and I didn't do anything. And I finally came to Ryan, and I'm like, "Ryan, I need some help, man. You know, I'm falling into that laziness again, and I need some help to get out of it." So Ryan and Russ came to me with kind of a plan, and we sat down and we discussed this plan. It had different goals that I had to accomplish. It had, you know, different things on there, and basically it was to ultimately get me to become on staff next year. And I was thrilled about it. You know, it was going to give me an opportunity to get out of that house and to be able to do something other than just sit around and do nothing. So I started to work at the office, making phone calls, filing paperwork, cleaning stuff at the warehouse, maintaining the warehouse, all the while trying to accomplish these goals that we had set up for me. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, you know, just working through that, trying to get those goals down so I can become on staff for Peak 7 next year, because, you know, if this is where God wants to be, He's going to provide for me, and I fully believe that now. And, yeah, thank you all for listening, and I hope that this changed you as much as Ryan and Peak 7 has helped to change me.